Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Tato Jayamudiraye. Before reciting the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is the very means of complex, one should offer respectful obeisances to the personality of Godhead Narayana, Ananda and Rishi Vishnu, and to Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, and unto Shastri we offer. Ashtapraishwareshu nityam bhagavata sevaya bhagavate uttama shloke bhakti bhavati naishtiki. My regular attention to classes of Bhagavatam and my regular service to the pure devotee, all the troubles of the heart is almost completely destroyed, and loving service unto the personality of God, whose grace is dancing at the songs, established at your welfare. Om Jnana Vivandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. I was born in the darkness of ignorance, and my spiritual master opened my eyes with the torch of knowledge. I have my respectful obeisances to my Supreme.
Right. So, we read from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 6, Chapter 19. We'll start with text 10. So, I'll just repeat and then you guys recite. Praname Kandavat Bhumo
Praname Kandavat Bhumo
Bhakti Pravena Chetasa
Bhakti Pravena Chetasa
Dasha Jape Mantram
Dashavana Jape Mantram
Tata Stotram Udiraye.
Tata Stotram Udiraye.
So,
Praname Kandavat Bhumo Bhakti Pravena Chetasa दशावरं जपे मन्त्रम् तथा स्तोत्रं मुदीरयेत् प्रणमे दण्डवद्भूमौ भक्तिभावेन चेतसा
दासवरं जपे मन्त्रं
दासवरं मन्त्रम्
तथा स्तोत्रम् उदीरयेत्
तथा स्तोत्रं मुदीरयेत् प्रणमे दण्डवद्भूमौ
भक्तिप्रभेन चेतसा
दशवारं जपेन् मन्त्रं
दशावारं जपेन् मन्त्रम्
तथा स्तोत्रम् उदीरयेत्
तथा स्तोत्रमुदीरयेत्
प्रणमे
प्रणमे proper obeisance.
Dandavad, like snake. So we'll just say it together.
Yeah.
Bhumo,
Bhakti through devotion, Pravena, humble, Chetasa with the mind, Dashavaram 10 times, Jape, Shukra, Mantram, the mantra, Tatha, 10, Stotram, prayer, Udiraye, Shushana.
One should offer obeisances unto the divine, humble through devotion. While offering dandavats by falling on the ground like a rod, should chant the above mantra 10 times. Then one should chant the following prayer. So, because I'm going till 14, do you still want to go through the other verses as well? Okay. Sanskrit and translation. Only translation. Okay. Sounds good. So the next verse, my Lord Vishnu and Mother Lakshmi, the goddess of fortune, you are the proprietors of the entire creation. Indeed, you are the cause of the creation. Mother Lakshmi is extremely difficult to understand because she is so powerful that the jurisdiction of her power is difficult to overcome. Mother Lakshmi is represented in the material world as the external energy, but actually she is always the internal energy of the Lord. Text 12. My Lord, you are the master of energy, and therefore you are the supreme person. You are sacrifice, yajna, personified. Lakshmi, the embodiment of spiritual activities, is the original form of worship offered unto you, whereas you are the enjoyer of all sacrifices. Text 13. So text 13 has a purport. So I'll read the translation and purport. Text 13 translation. Lakshmi, who is here is the reservoir of all qualities, whereas you manifest and enjoy all these qualities. Indeed, you are actually the enjoyer of everything. You live as the super soul living entities, and the goddess of fortune is the form of their bodies, senses, and mind. She also has a holy name and form, whereas you are the support of all such names and forms and the cause of their manifestation. Purport. Madhvacharya, the Acharya of the Tattvavadis, has described this verse in the following way. Vishnu is described as Yajna personified, and Mother Lakshmi is described as spiritual activity and the original form of worship. In fact, they represent spiritual activities and the super soul of all Yajna. Lord Vishnu is the super soul even of Lakshmi Devi, but no one can be the super soul of Lord Vishnu. For Lord Vishnu himself is the spiritual super soul of everyone. According to Madhvacharya, there are two tattvas or factors. One is independent and the other is dependent. The first tattva is the Supreme Lord Vishnu, and the second is the Jiva tattva. Lakshmi Devi, being dependent on Lord Vishnu, is sometimes counted amongst the Jivas. The Gaudiya Vaishnavas, however, describe Lakshmi Devi in accordance with the following two verses from the Prameya Ratnavali of Valadev Vidyabhushan. The first verse is a quotation from Vishnu Puran. Nityeva sa jaganmata Vishnu shrir anapayin yatha sarvagato Vishnus tathevayam uttama Vishnusyu shaktai tisras tashu ya kirtitaha seva shristat abhineti praha shyam prabhur mahan. O best of the Brahmanas, Lakshmi is the constant companion of the Supreme Personality of Godhead Vishnu, and therefore she is called Napayini. She is the mother of all creation. As Lord Vishnu is all-pervading, his spiritual potency, Mother Lakshmi, is also all-pervading. Lord Vishnu's principal potencies, internal, external, and marginal. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has accepted Parashakti, the spiritual entity of the Lord, as being identical with the Lord. Thus, she is also included in the independent Vishnu Tattva. In the Kantimala commentary of the Prameya Ratnavali, there is this statement: Nanu kvachit nitya mukta jivatvam lakshmiya svikirtam tatrahiti nitye vedi patye sarvavyapti khatanena. This is a kalakastesti adyadvaye sudopiti uktascha mahaprabhuna swashishya pratilakshmiya bhagavat advaitam upadishtam chit yat tasyastu vaitam uktam tattu tad avishta nitya mukta jivam adaya sangatamastu. Although some authoritative Vaishnava display succession count the goddess of fortune among the ever-liberating entities Jiva in Vaikuntha, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, in accordance with statement in the Vishnu Puran, has described Lakshmi as being identical with the Tattva. The correct conclusion is that the descriptions of Lakshmi as being different from Vishnu are stated when an eternally liberated and living entity is imbued with the quality of Lakshmi. They do not pertain to Mother Lakshmi, the eternal consort of Lord Vishnu. I'll read that last statement again. The correct conclusion is that the descriptions of Lakshmi as being different from Vishnu are stated when an eternally liberated living entity is imbued with the quality of Lakshmi. They do not pertain to Mother Lakshmi, the eternal consort of Vishnu. Last verse, verse 14. You are both the supreme rulers and the benedictors of the three worlds. My Lord Uttama Shloka, may my ambitions be fulfilled by your grace. Okay. So I'll just do Mangalacharan quickly and then we'll get started. Sri Chaitanya Manishtam Stapitam Swayam Rupapadam Adishwakadalpinam Vandeham Sri Guru Sri Yudavadakamalam Sri Guru Vaishnavamscha Mam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatham Vidam Tam Sajivam Sarvetam Sarutam Vajana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishnadam Sahagana Gopita Sri Vishakam Vidamscha He Krishna Karunando Dina Mando Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namaste Tapta Kanchana Gauraki Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vishabhanu Shudevi Pranamami Haripriye Vacha Kalpatrubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Vacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasati Shri Gaurabhakta Hare Krishna
Krishna Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare.
Right. Thank you all for coming. Is it okay if I keep this? No? Okay. So I'll just give a recap of what has happened so far. So Shukadev Goswami has described the descendants of two of Daksha's daughters, Diti and Aditi. The sons of Diti become Daityas, who are known as the demons, and the son of Aditi become Adityas, right, the demigods. Now, the biggest enemy of the demons is a personality called Indra. And Vishnu has appeared repeatedly to save him from the demons, and so he killed two of Diti's sons, Hiranyaksha and Hiranyakashipu. So as such, Diti has a personal vendetta against Indra, that because of you, my sons are now dead. So what she does, as described in this entire canto, or this entire chapter, in chapter 18 and 19, is she goes to Kashyapa Muni and says, I want to beget sons from you. And Kashyapa Muni is like, why? And she's like, because, so that I can use these sons to kill Indra. So Kashyap Muni says, okay, I mean, if you want that, if you really want really powerful sons, then do this vrata. What is this vrata called? Pumshavan vrata. So Pumshavan vrata, as we'll uncover in this chapter, can help one beget sons. But additionally, it also, because it's an offering to Vishnu and Lakshmi, it's also devotional service. Anyways, Indra finds out what's happening, and so he enters, or by his mystic potency, he can reveal in Deti's womb into 49 parts. And 49 parts become the 49 maruts. But because she had performed this vrata, which is devotional service, all these maruts come out as Vaishnavas. Right? So this chapter specifically talks about that Pumshavan vrata, and it's basically talking about all the prayers and what one should do if one wants to observe it. But the one essence of observing this vrata, the essential element in this vow, and any vow in a spiritual life, is the element of humility. And in chapter 10, text 10, literally it says that while one should offer obeisances unto the Lord with the mind humbled through devotion. So humility is the essential element of following spiritual activity, right? So I think maybe we can take some time to just discuss what is humility. If it's such an essential element in our spiritual life, we should at least understand what it is so we can start to implement it. How does that sound? Yeah? So what I would like to do is actually, I'd like to actually read out a pastime from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 7. So the canto following this one, okay? Canto 7, I think it is chapter, give me 1 second. It is chapter 8. Canto 7 chapter. Yeah, if you just type in chapter 8 and then we can just go the verses there. There's just text 5 and 6 that I want to see. Yeah, if you scroll down. So 5. So this is Hiranyakashipu. He's saying a lot, okay? And this will cover, this is in the next canto. But he says, O most imprudent, most unintelligent disruptor of the lowest of mankind, you have violated my power to rule, and therefore you are an obstinate fool. Today I shall send you to the place of Yamaraj. And then he says, look at this, look at the contrast. He's calling him an obstinate fool, and then what's the first word in text 6? My son Prahlad. And then the next word, you rascal. That when I'm angry, all the planets of the 3 worlds tremble, along with their rulers. By whose power has a rascal like you become so impudent that you appear fearless and overstep my power to rule you? Now, this is interesting. Prahlad Maharaj is a pure devotee of the Lord. Pure devotee of the Lord, we know are known to be very humble, embodiment of humility. And yet, how is Hiranyakashipu describing his son? Impudent. Impudent means someone who is very arrogant. He's not humble. How can somebody who's so humble be perceived as impudent? So let's read that text 7. Prahlad Maharaj said, my dear king, the source of my strength, of which you are asking, is also the source of yours. Indeed, the original source of all kinds of strength is one. He is not only your strength or mine, but the only strength for everyone. Without him, no one can get any strength. Whether not moving, superior or inferior, everyone, including Lord Brahma, is controlled by the strength of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So initially we may think that, Prahlad is actually being very towards his father, because he's even though his father is threatening him, Prahlad Maharaj is still able to tell his father that actually your strength you're getting from someone else. So I'm not scared of you. So one may say that is actually in one sense, and what Hiranyakashipu describes is that he's perceiving that as impudent, as arrogance. But that is actually the highest level of humility. And the reason is, humility actually comes from what Prahlad Maharaj is describing in text 7, which is recognizing that there's nothing more superior to the Supreme Personality of God. Right? Prabhupada, this is in a letter or in a conversation with Hari Vilas Prabhu, this is what he said. Humility means that you are convinced beyond any doubt there is nothing in this world, absolutely nothing in this world, not your money, not your family, not your fame, not your gun, not your education, nothing that will save you except the mercy of Krishna. When you are convinced like this, then right? So true humility is actually its profound strength that actually stems from very deep self-confidence on a spiritual level. Confidence that I am nothing without Krishna. But because I'm a devotee of Krishna, Krishna can act through me and empower me to do these amazing things. But without his mercy, I'm nothing. And that's what Prahlad Maharaj shows in text 7. He's saying not my strength, but your strength too is coming from Krishna. Right? So there are two components to this. When we understand that from Srila Prabhupada, there are two components. The first component to humility is we need to understand our position, and the second component of humility is we need to understand the Lord's position. Right? So when we understand our position and the Lord's position, we start to see the deep contrast between us. And then we start to understand that actually, without the Lord's sanction, I'm not able to do anything. And therefore, everything that I can do is actually because of the Lord. And that is when deep humility comes in. On the flip side is I can do everything. I can cook, I am God. Humility is the opposite of that. Right? It's saying that sure, I may be able to do all these things, but only through the sanction of the supremacy of Godhead. So, how does one actually develop humility? Right? So, as I said, there are two components. First component is realizing our position. Right? And what better way to help us realize our position than the material world? If you think about it, the material world is actually the perfect place to help us realize how insignificant we are. Right? What is this described as? The two words. Dukhalayam, Asham. What does Dukhalayam mean? Suffering, place of misery. When does it come in? When whatever we want doesn't go, or what we want doesn't happen. We want some things to happen this way, but things start happening this way. That brings about unhappiness and misery. Right? So the world, think about it, the definition of the material world is the place where what you want, the opposite happens. Right? Whatever you want is the opposite that's going to happen. That is the definition, and that's going to bring about misery. It's literally the definition, you can say, the key characteristic of this great world. So let's think about that. Right? Let's say you study really hard, but you don't get the good grades. Let's say you work to really get a good job, but you don't end up getting it. You work really hard through the interviews, but you don't get it. It brings about stress and misery. So what's teaching us? That there is something beyond our control, our effort, that is actually dictating the activities of our life. And that then starts to seep into this idea that there must be something else happening. There's somebody else who's controlling this, because despite my effort, I can't make this to go the way I want to. Clearly there's something lacking in me. There must be somebody else who's doing it. Right? So that is the first point, is that it helps us realize what our position is, like the material world, right? And what better way than to realize, what better way to realize, as I said, the material world. And an example, and the thing is, all these principles, they're foundational. They're actually in chapter 1 of the Gita. It's not like we have to go and read these books. These concepts of humility, it is so foundational. It's like almost, even before Krishna starts talking about the principle, we are this, not this body, we are the soul. the concept of humility appears in the first chapter of the Gita. And the verse where we specifically see this manifest is the famous verse, Darpanya dosho kohata swabha prichani tvam dharma samutta chetava jat shreyasya nishitam bhutanne shishyasteham shadi mantram pratannam. This is spoken by Arjuna, and this is sort of the turning point. This is when Arjuna starts to really disseminate the Gita to him. And what this verse translates to is Arjuna is basically saying that I have no what to do. I'm completely confused. I'm completely baffled. Krishna, I'm going to lay down my weapons. You tell me what is best for me. Right? That is, and let's think what got Arjuna to get there. Arjuna has been asking for this war to happen for decades almost at that point. Right? He's wanting to really, annihilate the Kauravas and offer and make that as an offering to Krishna. Now he has gotten he wishes for. But he's been asking, think about it, he's been asking for this so many times, so many years. He's finally gotten it. And then when he goes to the battlefield, he can't bring himself to fight it. Think about what you imagine, you pray for years and years to Krishna to get you something. It says here, you're like, I can't go through with it, Krishna. What to do? It'll be frustrating, wouldn't it? It'll be like, what's going on? And not only that, he starts to, if you actually read the symptoms that Arjuna is describing, that my limbs are shaking, my hairs are standing on end, all of this, my skin is feeling like it's burning, those are symptoms of a panic attack. He's not just saying, I can't do this, he's having a panic attack during Bhagavad Gita. Yeah, go ahead.
It is important before you do something, you must go through the consequences of that, the outcome. When you kind of discriminate those things,
then you can help, right? Unfortunately, sometimes we don't. But also think about this. Arjuna, for all these years, he's meditating on this. He has sort of understood the concept. But even despite that, he still has a breakdown. And that breakdown causes him to form this verse and humble himself in front of Krishna. And that's the point, is that that is the design of the material world, is that sometimes, no matter how hard we try, even when we get what we want, things will still unfold in the total opposite way of what we had imagined. And that should actually bring us to this realization that despite all my efforts and my desires and everything else, things are not going I wanted. There must be something else happening. As much as I like to think I'm the controller of my death, I'm the controller. And actually may not be. Right? So that's the first point, is realizing our position, our limitations. And I mean, you guys have all realized this in your life. How many times have you studied for a test and still flunked it? How? I didn't mean to name it. It was a rhetorical question. Okay. Right? How many times have you tried to crack a melody so you can sing it on Thursday? And when you get on there on Thursday night to do the kirtan, no matter, you've practiced so hard, but it just doesn't come through. How many times have we, and on a more serious note, how many times have we applied for, even just trying to make our ends meet by getting a job or something, and still things don't pan out the way we want them to. It must be something like that. All these experiences are meant to do what? They're meant to bring us to this realization that there must be something else going on. There must be something. It is meant to make us realize our restrictions. So that's the first point. Now, usually people realize that, I'm not all that I claim out to be. But the challenge is, if they don't realize the second part, it can actually lead to depression. Because then they just become inactive. They're just like, I can't do anything. Nothing seems to cut my way. I can't do anything. But that's because they haven't realized the second point. And the second point is that we should also take a moment to understand Krishna's lack of restrictions. if we are restricted, Krishna is unrestricted. And when that second point comes in, then we really start to move towards humility. In Bhagavad Gita itself, in chapter 11, Krishna sees the Virat Roop, right? He sees the universal form. And in the universal form, through Arjuna, Krishna reveals to us how this universal form actually contains every single aspect of creation. And then when we go into the third canto of Bhagavatam, we read how through this Virat Roop, through this universal form, our senses start to manifest. So like for example, for taste, I think it says that the element of taste is like water. So the water first gets manifest. Then from water, I couldn't really tell you the technicalities of how taste manifests, but what I do know is first water. From water, then there is a deity that is manifested, that is created by Krishna. Then that deity takes over the sense of taste or tongue, and then that deity manifests in the tongue form of the Virat Roop, and then from that we actually get the humans or the living entities, we then have ability to taste something. Think about the last time you had a really good dish, whether it was pizza, there was gulab jamun, whether it was, I don't know what else there, shahi paneer, ice cream. Sure, ice cream is a perverted kind of gulab jamun, but sure, we'll go with that, right? Pizza, yeah, right? When we think of it, like, we are able to enjoy these dishes, we are only able to enjoy taste because it's present in Krishna. Not even enjoying the benefit of Krishna. Even the atheists, the people who are not unconscious, they want to live a completely hedonistic lifestyle. But they're completely in ignorance because they don't realize that the source of, like, the reason why they're able to enjoy their senses is because those senses, those faculties are present in Krishna. Right? So you start to understand that now this contrast starts to actually appear to us, where we are so restricted that we can't enjoy properly without his sanction. And Krishna is so restricted that the instrument of enjoyment, he creates it. He actually creates the instrument of enjoyment. Right? And that is when, and so as you can see, right in the Bhagavad Gita, this is all being delineated. Right? So whatever functions, whatever we do, when we start to understand that actually we can't do anything without sanction, without the sanction of Krishna. Everything is in this world, as Prahlad Maharaj said in those verses, moving and non-moving, all of that is the source of Krishna. Then we start to understand, okay, now I can see how I am completely limited, but Krishna is fully unlimited. And that starts to begin our journey into humility. Let's really bring this home and let's do an exercise. Okay? So, can someone get a calculator out? Yeah, calculators. Or if you want to take notes, you can also take notes. Okay, let's do this. Let's scale our position and Krishna's position. Okay? Let's try to get a sense of it. What is the population of human beings on Earth?
8 billion.
8 billion.
The recent 8 billion is the most recent statistic. Okay, so write 8 billion. 9 zeros. 8 and then 9 zeros. Okay? Everyone written that down? Okay. Now, we're only accounting for the population of humans. We're not accounting for the population of animals, of fishes, like plants, any of that. Just humans. So, if there are 8 billion people on planet Earth, how many planets are there in our solar system?
9, 8.
8. Okay. I don't recognize Pluto as a planet. Sorry, Pluto. Okay, so let's just say, and then for now, let's just say we have 8 planets. So now let us assume that every planet has 8 billion population as well. So what's 8 billion times 8? 64 billion.
64 billion.
Okay. So again, very crude analysis because some planets may have more population, some may have less. We don't know, but we'll just say for argument's sake, how many so that is one solar system. How many solar systems are there in the galaxy, in the Milky Way? Any idea? How many solar systems are there in the galaxy? Infinite. So it's actually 3,916 solar systems in Milky Way galaxy. So now multiply 64 billion, because if there's a population of 64 billion in one galaxy, then, or in one solar system, then you multiply it by 3,916. What is the? That's why I said get out a calculator. What is the answer you guys get?
The max you can fit is 8 zeros.
Huh? The calculator is broken.
440 and 9 times 0.
If you haven't already, maybe pull out Google and just do this on Google, because Google will give you how many zeros?
So 9 plus 12. 12 digits.
12 digits. Okay. So that is the number, the population in one galaxy. 50 digits in one galaxy. How many galaxies are there in? So that's one galaxy. But then Milky Way, that's one galaxy. There's so many other galaxies. How many galaxies do you think are there in the universe?
2 trillion.
2 trillion. So now you multiply that by 2 trillion.
How many zeros?
2 trillion, yeah. So 2 trillion is how many zeros? Does anyone know?
10 power 11.
10 power 11. Yeah. So 2 times 10. Is it 11 or 12?
11.
11. Yeah. 2 times 10 to the 11. Okay. That's in one universe. Okay. Everyone still with us? Calculators are starting to break down right now. How many universes do you think are there in the material world? So, we know that from Mahavishnu, from every pore, the universe is coming about. So, how many pores does Mahavishnu have? No, we don't know. Right? So, a graduate from like Stanford, MIT, actually did a mathematical calculation and he got an estimate of how many universes. So, the amount of universes that we think are in existence is 10 to the power of 10 to the power of 16. Okay, so 10 to the, so that has so I'll tell you how many zeros that has. That has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. 17 zeros. So now you add the 2 trillion, whatever answer you got after 2 trillion, multiply it by 17 zeros to the power of 17. Okay? That is the population on a very crude estimate level of material world, because we are not counting the population of animals and plants. First of all, we are assuming every planet has the same number of population as the Earth. Then we are estimating that the solar systems in the galaxy, whatever material calculation that is accurate, might be more, right? We are thinking that the galaxies in the universe, we are again estimating it might be more. The number of universes, we're also estimating that also might be more. And that is just 1/4 of total creation. Because material is only 1/4 of the total creation. The 3/4 are in the spiritual world. So now you multiply that number by 4. So I actually did the math. And I used a financial calculator because it works down. So the thing I got was 2 times 10 to the power of 44. Now let's compare that, because what is 10 to the power of 44? What does that even mean? So now let's think, how many grains of sand do you think are present on this planet, on Earth? So I also calculated this. It's 7.5 times 10 to the 1. The number of souls that we've calculated is 10 to the power of 44. The number of the grains of sand in this planet Earth, just think, 1 grain of sand on this entire planet is 10 to the 21. So, in order for us to even get close to the estimate of souls that are in existence, how many number of grains of sand there are on the planet Earth? If we got those many planets, so each planet Earth represents 1 grain of sand that is on one of the planet Earth, and then counted all of those grains of sand on all of those planets, then we would come close to our crude estimate of how many souls are created. Krishna is greater than that. And not only that, but do you understand how small we are in relation to Krishna? And not only that, but each and every one in this room, I'm sure, has had a personal experience where they felt Krishna has intervened in their life. Krishna is still taking time to interact with each and every one of those living beings. When I was reflecting on this, it actually made me emotional that you realize how small you are and how magnanimous Krishna is. And we're just realizing this theoretically. If just by theoretical analysis, we are like, the natural conclusion is, I'm no. Imagine someone who's realized it fully and practically. So therefore, when we read this in the prayers of Bhaktivinoda Thakur and Narottam Das Thakur, and we read in the part how devotees are saying, I'm absolutely nobody. It doesn't seem far out, does it? It's not based on low self-esteem, it's actually based on reality. Because they have fully come to understand how minute their existence is and how magnanimous Krishna is. That's how merciful Krishna is that despite us being as small as we are, he still takes time to invest in each of our relationships. Who are we? Right? And that is, this is what happens when we actually start to understand our position and Krishna's position. We start to come to terms with what reality actually is. And when we start to understand what reality is, then the natural flow from that for any sane person is that, yeah, I can't do anything. There are more number, if there's more grains of sand in this planet, or there are more number of the grains of sand in this planet, and still Krishna is making time for each and every one of us. It's amazing. Right? And this is when we start to think about these things, when we start to actually develop this level of humility, what happens is our relationship with Krishna actually becomes enhanced. Because then we approach our relationship with Krishna with so much more like, my dear Lord, like I have zero relevance in front of you, and yet you take time out to actually come to my life and impose your relevance in my life. Who are really in front of Krishna? Those number of souls, that is still Krishna is still very much far off from creation, because after creation, what do we have? We have Kshirodakshaya Vishnu, Garbhodakshaya, we have Karanodakshaya, Kshirodakshaya Vishnu, Garbhodakshaya Vishnu. We have all three Vishnus. Out of that, then we have the four. We have Anirudh, Pradyumna, Sankarshan, and I forget one more. Anirudh, Pradyumna, Sankarshan, and Vasudeva, I think, I'm not sure. And then you have those four, and then you have Narayan, and then you have another four, and then you have Krishna. Krishna is still like 4 or 5 levels removed. And still, we get access not to Narayan, not to Anirudh, to Pradyumna, but we get access directly to Krishna. Yeah? And I'm just going to end on last time, just to really bring this home. And this is sort of the third aspect of developing humility. So the first aspect was we need to understand our position. Second aspect, we need to understand Krishna. And the third aspect is we need to then understand our relationship with Krishna. Because then when we start to do that, we think how insignificant we are, but how magnanimous Krishna is. But then he's still choosing to establish that relationship with us. Then the only thing that will come out is love for Krishna and absolute humility. A CEO, if he comes to you and he says, how are you doing? Tell me everything about your life. Yeah, how can I help you? We will feel touched. We will feel, even though, if you can say, Narendra Modi comes Manas Prabhu, tell me. Tell me how. Tell me. You'd feel like, oh my god, like, Modi came and asked me us, Modi is just another living entity on this planet. Krishna, as I said, is so much more. And he's still choosing to associate with us. It's incredible, isn't it? Right? And this is actually, and so it really enhances that when we start to develop the city, it really starts to enhance a relationship with Krishna. And this was more exemplified specifically in the Brahma Vimohana. So what happens is Krishna says, hey, let's go, they kill Krishna kills Agasura. His Gopas are, hey, thank you for saving us, I'm really hungry, let's go eat, right? So they go for a picnic, they go sit in the banks of the Yamuna, and it's described that all the gopas sitting in a circle and Krishna is in the center. And just how in the Rasalila, every gopi thought that Krishna was interacting with them, every gopa thought that Krishna was interacting with them specifically. And he's sitting in the center, and they're all sharing meals. And because they're interacting in a very, very elevated mood of sakya, of friendship, there's not so much etiquette. With Krishna, what do? We make that we're clean. We cover the plate, we cover the bhoga when we bring it. Then we offer it with a very clean, externally and internally. We don't even look at the food, we don't even smell or look at the bhoga, we don't even try to smell it. We let Krishna do it, right? The Gopas, what were they doing? They were saying, Krishna, you want to have this, and they were offering stuff from their plate onto Krishna. And the acharyas explained, it's not only that, they would eat a little bit and say, Krishna, you want to try this? My mother to you. Krishna's like, yeah, give me some of that. Let me see this. So Brahma's observing all of this, and he's like, this is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. This is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He's just, what etiquette is that? This cannot be the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He's just taking all this meat from everyone else and just eating it, and then they would get into mischief. They would start to have food, they would throw yogurt and everything onto each other. Like, whatever yogurt you're eating, you're throwing that on other person too. Like, what's going on? So then he tests him, and what does he do? He steals all the calves and the gopas, and he hides them. And then when he returns, Krishna has expanded into all the other gopas and calves as well. And so Brahma gets confused, he gets bewildered, and he starts to understand. He's like, I thought I left them there, but now they're here. What's going on, right? Like, I was playing the trick on Krishna, but clearly I'm the one getting tricked. That's the first thing. The first impetus is that what he wanted to happen did not happen. Something opposite happened. Again, what we talked about, whatever we want to happen doesn't happen, the opposite happens. So similarly with Brahma, that was the initial thing. But then what does he do? Instead of crying or lamenting or getting depressed or still trying to fight it out, he then becomes humble. And he says, this is actually the Supreme Personality of God. And as soon as he does that, then Krishna will manifest every gopa starts to actually, reveal their manifestation as the four arms of Narayana. And Krishna is in the center. And not only that, but you think about how many, I just told you, there's 10 to the 10 to the 16 universes. That is by material calculation. By spiritual calculation, it's even more. So imagine how many Narayans are present. And then for each Narayan, the Brahma from that universe is coming and paying dandavats. Imagine now, the Brahma who has stole the calves, imagine what he was going through. He is saying other Brahmas and countless, literally like a sea of Brahmas coming. Some with 4 heads, some with 3 heads, some with, thank you so much, right? Some with 5 heads coming and paying dandavats to Narayana. And so he completely gets bewildered. And that's the second point. The second point is that he realizes his position and he realizes the enormity of Krishna's position and the insignificance of his position. And then what does he do? We just went through a theoretical exercise and you were all like, oh my, Krishna is so enormous. Imagine coming to this realization practically, right? Imagine coming, like, you actually see it and you're like, my God, like, oh, what have I done, right? And not only that, but then you realize that you've really, like, you've messed with the wrong person here, right? So what is the natural reaction? Natural reaction is you will just paint dandavats repeatedly. You will go insane. You will go mad, right? And that's what happens with Brahma. He repeatedly starts to paint dandavats. He repeatedly starts to pray, offer prayers and cry, because he's just realized the enormity of Krishna's presence, of Krishna's position, and the insignificance of his. Right? And so that is, and with that, I'll just conclude here. That is what humility does, is it enhances a relationship with Krishna. And so to recap, the 3 points that we brought up today. First is that humility is essential for spiritual practice. It is essential for spiritual practice. And humility is not a mental concoction or an emotion. It's actually based on reality. When we start to understand our position, the reality of our position, and the reality of Krishna's position, the natural flow from that will be humility. It will be something concocted. It will be something that we would have to actively try to be humble. It will just come naturally. We try to realize and become introspective of where we are and where Krishna is. And when, after seeing that contrast, then when we start to understand our relationship with Krishna and how Krishna continues to choose us despite our limitations, despite our shortcomings, and still tries to make himself present in our life, then what does it do? It actually, when it further enhances, it further makes us more humble. But not only that, but when we apply that humility back into that relationship, then our relationship with Krishna becomes even more enhanced. Because we start to see, my God, my dear Krishna, I am absolutely no one, and still today you choose to come into my life, and you still choose to pay attention.